Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Jouar, and today is Thursday, April 16th, 2026. And I've got the awesome Enrique here with me. How's it going, man?
It's going good. Nice to see you, Miriam.
I know. We haven't done a show in a while. We have a bunch of news to cover. I'm excited to have you on because it's like you always have such a great perspective on things. So I got some show and tell to start with. And then there's a bunch of news. Like it's just really all over the place this week. So let's dive in. Okay, the first thing I want to show you, I'm going to reach for it. So hang on a little second here.
Okay.
I have a new toy. I have a MacBook Neo here. It's the lime colored one. Let me pull back.
So there it is.
There it is. The logo, it's interesting because the logo is matte. So it's really hard to see the Apple logo. Like maybe if I go like
it's
this.
not glossy like
No,
the
you
Pros.
see how it's not glossy?
Oh.
Like here, I'll put it closer for people.
Yeah,
you see that? There you go. You can really see it now. It's upside down. So there we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, this is the Citrus model, and I went for the 512 gig model with the fingerprint reader. And the reason I did that is because that's generally the storage that I need on my Macs. So there it is. As you can see, I kept that background that it comes with because it's really cool, I think. And as you can see, there's the keyboard. So this has I'll get a little closer. This has the Touch ID sensor there instead of normally the cheaper model has a lock key. It has just flat and has a little lock on it graphic. So this thing has a trackpad that doesn't have the haptics.
I was going to ask you about that. How do you feel about that?
So it feels exactly the same. In fact, it's possibly a little clickier. But the thing that they did that nobody's really done right before is that if you click on it, here, I'll put it next to the mic so you can hear it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it sounds just the same. But the cool thing is it doesn't matter. You can click right at the edge up here. It feels the same. And like you can feel the trackpad moving in, unlike, the haptic one, which doesn't actually move, but gives you that tap, right?
Exactly.
The whole thing moves down when you click, but it doesn't matter where you click and it's perfectly even. So they've done a really good job with that. Keyboard is not backlit, but as you can see, it is a very lovely keyboard. It feels exactly like a MacBook Air keyboard. Like there's no difference between this keyboard and any other Apple keyboard. So the trackpad, even though it's probably cheaper to make and slightly simpler, still feels like a proper Apple trackpad. The keyboard feels like a proper Apple keyboard. This display, as you can see, I'm in average brightness 50% right now here. In it's late in the day here, but it's still daylight. So it looks pretty good, right? It's not sRGB, it's only P3, but you wouldn't tell. Like I have edited photos on this already, and I'm like, they're looking great. Like when I look on a better screen, they're like perfect. So maybe I have bad eyes, but I can't figure it out. The feet are color coordinated, which is pretty cool. Whoa, you can see it there. And this is built like a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. It feels like solid metal, like the whole thing is aluminum. There's no compromises. It's got a 1080p webcam up there, and there's no LED light for it. You know how iPhones tell you when the camera is being used by putting a little green light
on the screen,
status screen? That's the same thing here.
Okay, so it doesn't technically need it because it's baked into the software.
But it is an iPhone chip, so they did all the iPhone things, right?
Yeah,
so that's kind of what's cool about it. So it's 1080p webcam. It doesn't have center stage, but it does have the LED is gone. So they save money where they can. Now, one of the areas that for me is a bit of a bummer is the backlight. I like a backlight on my keyboard, but to be frank, because these keys are kind of color matched and lighter colored, with just the screen shining down on it or one little light somewhere, you generally have enough light to see what you're doing. So I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make of it. The bigger deal is
that I saw somebody create an app. I don't know if you saw this, that it just takes up like a bottom strip of the screen and it just shoots bright white from it so that you can see the keyboard.
Dude, that's a really good idea. I love it.
Yeah.
The only other things that are, I think, they obviously got a bit of corners on the trackpad, but it doesn't feel that way. Like I don't feel like I'm missing out with this trackpad. Same with the keyboard, other than the backlight. I bought the bigger one, the more expensive $699 one, because I wanted the 512 gigs of storage, and I wanted the Touch ID. So if you want the Touch ID, if you don't want to have to type your password in every time you log into anything, this is a nice thing to have. The ports here on the side are USB 3 closer to the hinge, USB 2 closer to the keyboard, and then you have headphone jack, and you have a speaker here. The other speakers on the app. The speakers sound surprisingly good. It's interesting because you read the reviews and everybody's got a different opinion on that. And you know, I'm a bit of an audio person, and I can tell you, you're not missing out with these speakers. They're not MacBook Pro quality, but they're very close to a MacBook Air. Like I would say, like, you know, I was watching YouTube last night in my hotel room. I was at a conference and I had these things. The nice thing is they fire sideways, so if you're on a flat surface, it kind of bounces off the flat surface and it gives you a bit more depth. If you're holding it in midair like this and playing a video, it sounds a little tinier. But as soon as you put it on, it's like a phone. You put it on a wooden surface or something, boom, you know, it works. Yeah. So again, I've only had this for 2 days, so it's like these are my initial impressions. And the nice thing is, you know, in typical Apple fashion, you can lift the hinge with one hand. I mean, it's that kind of detail, right? And of course it's running Mac OS. And as you can see, even the design in the back, the hinge looks exactly the same as a MacBook Air. Now, you don't have that kind of like hard edge that you have on the top lid of the MacBook. See, like it's rounded.
Okay. So it's more
rounded on both
smoothened
sides.
out.
Yeah. And so that's another difference. It's a little thicker than a MacBook Air, but it's the same weight, 2.7 pounds. And it's, of course, smaller footprint, slightly. It's maybe a half an inch less. More bezel. The screen is only 13 inch, not 13.6 or whatever, right? But now let's talk about the elephant in the room, the thing that is like everybody's arguing about, right? And that's the processor. It's an iPhone 16 Pro processor with one GPU core less. That's how they basically when you manufacture chip, this happens all the time. Qualcomm does it too, where like they come out slightly defective. Maybe one of the cores doesn't work. Instead of throwing them out, they keep them. I'll give you examples. More recent examples. The iPhone 17e that just came out, right? That uses the same chip as the iPhone 17 regular, but it has one less GPU core. So it's a bin chip. Last year, the iPhone 16e used the iPhone 16's processor with one less GPU core. So they do this all the time. And it means that they have, you know, all these chips that they were going to throw out. Now they can use them. But it also means they don't have an unlimited supply of them. And as you know, this has been such a popular device that they're actually running out. And so I would be surprised if we get a Neo. I don't even think they're going to call it Neo 2. It's just going to be an update to the Neo that suddenly has an A19 Pro binned.
Yeah.
Which is the processor in the iPhone 17 Pro instead of the 16 Pro, because they're not going to restart the production line for that chip. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Exactly. Yeah. And you know, with this computer, with this MacBook Neo, which interestingly in the introduction video, they called it straight up Neo. Like they didn't even say MacBook. They just said, "Oh, you unlock your Neo." And I thought that was interesting because this is starting kind of a new line or a new like branding for Apple. That's one thing. The other thing is this MacBook Neo has, you know, pretty sure has Windows computer makers like crapping their pants.
Yeah, let's talk about that actually.
The
other thing I wanted to bring up with the chip is 8 gigs of RAM, right? Because I don't know if you guys understand this, and maybe some of you don't know this, but those M chips and the A chips, the RAM is right in the silicon chip. Like it's not a separate thing. The only chip that's separate is the storage. And that's how you have iPhones is 256, 512, 1 terabyte, depending on what model you buy, right? 2 terabytes. I've got an iPhone 17 Pro Max with 2 terabytes. I didn't buy it. Apple sent me a freaking 2 terabyte Origin iPhone 17 Pro Max. Like, holy crap, I'll never fill that up because I'm not that kind of person. But I mean, if you are, great for you. But I'm just saying, like, I don't see how I can ever fill that up. But so technically, and people have already done this, you can mod this to be 1 terabyte by you have to be an expert.
Desoldering.
Good luck with your warranty, right?
Yeah.
But my point is, it's possible. But you can't upgrade the RAM. And so if they go to an A19 Pro, it has 12 gigs of RAM. So those of you complaining about the RAM will be happy to know that in a way, if they do come out with an updated Neo that they still call Neo and is exactly the same but has a newer chip because they're running out of chips and uses the iPhone 17 Pro chip but binned, then we're going to get 12 gigs of RAM automatically. It's the only option. There's no other option. So good. Now, 8 gigs of RAM doesn't bother me because I have multiple Macs, M series Macs, that have 8 gigs of RAM. And I never have a problem with that. I keep most of my Macs on average 5 years each. In 5 years, it might be a little tight to have 8 gigs of RAM on this, right? And that's where I think there is a lot of, I can agree with the argument and people saying, oh man, 8 gigs of RAM. But if you are like my old MacBook, which is like almost 3.5, 4 years old now, my MacBook Air M2 is 8 gigs of RAM. And it's been solid as a rock for that time. And I've never had any issues with memory. And guess what? I'm going to keep another 1.5 years probably before I upgrade because it's roughly my 5-year cycle, right? And I had an M1 Air that I, by the way, traded in for this. People are going to be like, what do you mean you traded in the M1 Air with Thunderbolt for the USB? Are you nuts? No, because I want the new shiny toy and the cool color. Okay, like my M1, was a bit beat up, but I got $300 from Apple for a trade-in, so why not, right? Anyway, the point I'm making is that RAM is not an issue for me, and I understand if it is an issue for some other people, right? Right now I'm recording on Mac Mini here with an iPhone 16 Pro. Actually, I have the same chip in here in this camera up there. Because I'm in San Francisco in my studio, so I have 16 gigs of RAM on this Mac Mini M4. But my iMac in Vancouver is an M3. I bought the wrong Mac. I bought it like 3 months before they announced the M4 with 16 gigs of RAM default. And of course, I got the 8 gigs. So I was like, 8 gigs good enough. I only plan to keep this for 5 years. So I'm used to 8 gigs. It's, between the M1 MacBook Air that I traded in, the M2 Air that I own and travel with, which is now getting replaced by this for the time being, and the M3 iMac with 8 gigs I have. 8 gigs is fine. And I run DaVinci Resolve to do my video editing. I run Audacity for the podcast recording. It's running right now in the background here. Photo editing, I use Affinity. Some people use Adobe products, but I don't want subscriptions. So Affinity is you pay once and you use anyway. So I have no problems, but I don't use RAW. Like I don't shoot RAW. I don't shoot more than 4K. And as you know, all these chips, like these phone chips and the M chips, they all have MPEG-4 and H.264 and H.265 and AV1 encoding and decoding and hardware,
exactly.
Right? So that's never really an issue. But look, is the SSD slower than my M2 Air? Yes. Is it slightly slower than my M2 Air? In use, I'm not noticing any difference. And if you look at benchmarks, in fact, single core, this is faster than my M2 Air. It's only in multi-core that my M2 Air is faster. So and my M2 Air, it came with 256 gigs of storage. This has actually more storage than my M2 Air. So I have no problems with storage issues. So it's been fascinating to see that Apple can deliver something that is this good for $699 or $599 if you're willing to go for less storage and no fingerprint sensor. It's remarkable. And, those of you who listen to this podcast regularly, I'm not an Apple fangirl. I am a Mac fangirl for sure. Like, I love my Macs. But unlike what a lot of people think, I do not use any of Apple's services. So I run my Mac like a normal, like I can switch to a Windows machine tomorrow. And because I'm using DaVinci and Audacity, all my stuff will work. Now, Affinity won't work on Windows, but I'm sure I'll find some kind of photo editor that'll work. That will be similar because Affinity just behaves a lot like Photoshop. So, maybe GIMP, the open source, free, I don't know. The point is I want to retain my kind of platform independence. And the reason I like Macs is not because of the ecosystem. It's because I love the hardware. It's Unix. So like I can open a terminal window and I can like dick around like I used to, back in the day when I was a software engineer. And for me, that's kind of a lot of fun. I really love that aspect of it. And that's also why I like Linux. And then on Windows, I always feel a little constrained because I have to install it. You can install all that Linuxy stuff as a separate install, but it's not there by default. So for me, it's like, I love the hardware and I love the OS because also I don't feel like tinkering. When I'm on a Windows machine, I start going like and playing with all the settings and like having like just I get lost in it. Same with Linux. It's like Linux is even worse. I can like, oh my God, it's terrible. So Mac is like you very little. You can change my background. I change my screensaver. I can move the dock around, but like yeah, that's about it, you know? And in a way that's kind of keeps me honest because, you know, I'm like going to be distracted otherwise. So that's kind of why.
Makes sense.
But now you can get all this goodness that I was getting for $1,000 before on an Air, I can now get for $700 or $600 and $500 if you're an educational discount, if you're an EDU email address. So this is amazing. And as you said, what do you think is going to happen to PC makers? Are they going to follow suit or are they just going to give up at this point?
I don't know. I mean,
right?
It's going to be hard to make an offering that's compelling against this.
Right.
They're going to have to start stepping up hardware. They're going to have to start stepping up somehow, or I don't know, because when I think of a $600 Windows computer, it's nowhere near what the Neo is offering.
I know, and there's a lot of videos out there that argue, well, come on, it's not that bad. And they, you know, but all of them are like, yeah, these are $1,000 laptops that are selling at Best Buy for $700 or $600. You know what I'm saying? They're discounted.
Oh, yeah.
You can't have, here's the thing that those people tell me you can go to Best Buy and buy a MacBook Neo for the same price as you can buy a relatively decent $1,000 Windows machine. Yes, because the $1,000 Windows machine is discounted. What do you think is going to happen when the Neo is available on the Refurb Apple website? When you can buy a refurb, and for those of you who don't know, Apple Refurb is as good as new. The only thing that is not as nice is the packaging. Like there is not a nick or a scratch. Every part that has any cosmetic damage gets replaced. So the computer is used. The warranty is the same. It feels new to you. So you won't see any like greasy fingerprint marks on the keyboard. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know how they wear out after some time? Like, no, none of that. So when you can buy that for $399 eventually on the base model on Refurb, then where's your comparison with that $1,000 discounted laptop, Windows people? That's the thing that nobody understands because you're right. At $600 or $700, like non-discounted Windows machine, all plastic. Or mostly plastic.
Mostly plastic. That's mostly plastic, yeah.
And the trackpad doesn't click evenly, you know, all over. The keyboard might be okay, but I can guarantee you that the keyboard deck is going to flex. This one does not move. It's aluminum. It's not going to move.
It's a solid aluminum build, and nobody makes a trackpad like Apple. And, you know, same as you, I'm not like an Apple fan person. Like I don't use either Apple specific services because I'm cross-platform. I need cross-platform because I use Android and Windows as well, on a daily basis, and so they do a lot of things very well, and it's not for everyone.
No.
But the fact that they are pushing the price down maybe will try to convince people maybe not to buy one, but maybe to consider it, which is still significant.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. And then, you know, for me, that's what it is. It's like, I do use some minimal things from Apple that come for free, like Find Me, right? Like I have that turned on all my devices from Apple. If there's some theft or I leave a phone behind or something, I can find it. And that's what it's all about. But I do sync, like, I think my keychain and a few other things. But like, on iCloud, but I don't actually have iCloud subscription for more storage because I don't back up anything to iCloud.
Yeah,
I back up my photos to Google. So even on my iPhones. So you know, and my Mac, I don't even back up any. Like I back up to Time Machine on a local drive.
Sure.
On my desktop Macs, it's permanently plugged in, but for my MacBook Air, every time I come back from a trip, I've got an external hard drive I plug into it and I do a Time Machine backup, and that way I have a backup, right? So there are some things that Apple does that are really great, like Time Machine. And I use them, but I'm just saying, like, I do not use Safari, even though it's more power efficient. I will admit that. I do not use any of the built-in apps. Like I just don't. Like maybe text edit sometimes, like the basic text editor.
Yeah.
Of course I use Finder, which is, very, very critical to my everyday work. System preferences, all those things. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm mostly in a web browser, usually Chrome, sometimes Firefox. And I have all these apps that I use. I've got a collection of little non-Apple but Macintosh apps, like helper apps, like a batch image processor that is easier to use than like a big heavy Photoshop type app for batch processing, so I can do like thumbnails and stuff, and or for reviews, or I can do like what they call when you watermark them and stuff, depending on who I'm like freelancing for, right? You know how I write for a whole bunch of different pubs. But that's the kind of stuff. Like my use is really simple, but I like the idea that I have, unlike a Chrome, and I'm a big Chromebook fan. I love Chromebooks, especially the higher end ones. They're really nice. But unlike a Chromebook where I can maybe just run Android apps and then I can install Linux on some Chromebooks, I have the option to run some really nice Mac apps that are really helpful, and but I can live without them. It's not the end of the world. But there's no DaVinci on Chromebooks. So that definitely would slow me down.
Yeah.
And no Audacity on Chromebooks. So, but the point is for pure writing, I'm so that actually brings us to another thing, and I want your thoughts on this. So your opinion is that PC manufacturers are going to have to either, improve the hardware somehow and maybe cut their margins a bit because they don't have the economies of scale as Apple. I think about it. With that A18 Pro processor that's recycled, it costs them nothing. It's already there. They have it. And then the manufacturing processes, they've perfected those over the years for the Air and for the MacBook Pros. So they're familiar on how to do that. It's got a relatively small battery in there compared to an Air because the processor is so efficient. So that's probably pretty affordable. Which Windows laptop that costs $700 or even costs $1,000 and is discounted $700 has a decent webcam? None. Like that's the one thing Apple is really good at. The webcams are always really good, right?
Yeah.
So look, I'm not saying I want to see a Windows machine that competes with this. I want Asus in particular to go after this hardcore. Because remember, when Apple did the MacBook Air, I'm not talking about the MacBook Air Wedge. I'm talking about the original, the crazy expensive Air, the one that Steve Jobs pulled out of a manila envelope on stage.
Oh my God, that was insane.
When they did that, the same thing happened as with the Neo. The entire PC industry freaked the F out and was like, oh my God, what do we do now? And so Intel was like, well, let's create these things called Ultrabooks. Remember Ultrabooks? And guess who did the first Ultrabook? And it rocked. It was amazing. It was really, really nice. ZenBook. Asus. The original ZenBook is a direct result of Apple disrupting the PC market back in 2008 when the original Air came out. Like, I want Asus and Lenovo to go after this and do right, but I'm not sure they can keep hitting that price point without and still make money, because also they have to pay Microsoft a $50 license for the freaking OS.
That's the thing, is Apple has so much control of every aspect of making the MacBook that they can afford to do that. But you're right, the license fees, who's going to make the chips, like there's a lot of suppliers that are part of this chain that makes it more difficult to compete with something like the Neo. And
then you have the RAM apocalypse that's happening, right? So Windows pretty much requires the reason again, the Windows people are going to tell me, but Miriam, at $600, $700, I can buy a discounted Windows machine at Best Buy that normally costs $900 to $1,000 and they all come with 16 gigs of RAM. And I'm like, yeah, that's great. I want 16 gigs of RAM on my MacBook Neo. Absolutely. But guess what? If they actually make a laptop this nice in the Windows world, that they won't be able to afford 16 gigs of RAM. And so here's what I think is going to happen. I think Microsoft and Intel and these manufacturers are going to work really, close together. Intel's going to try to give them a chip that is pretty decent, or maybe they'll go to Qualcomm and get a chip that's pretty decent.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
And get that performance at a reasonable price. And then they're gonna make 8 GB laptops. And what's gonna happen is Microsoft is gonna make a version of Windows that's highly optimized that runs on 8 GB. Mark my effing words. And it's gonna happen not because it should happen. I don't believe that. I want 16 gigs of RAM, but because the RAM prices are out of control. So they don't have a choice. If they're gonna make a laptop this nice, Asus or Lenovo or HP or Dell at this price point, and I keep pointing at my laptop because I put it over there, in case you're wondering, why is she doing this? Well, is she nuts? Yes, I am, might be nuts. Anyway, the point is 8 gigs. If you do a Windows version that runs on 8 gigs, okay, then it might fly. So I want to see the answer. I want to see the response to that. I'm excited about it. This is going to elevate the entire PC industry, and Chromebooks are going to have to improve as well. Because you're going to say, well, Miriam, you can buy a Chromebook for $200. Do you know how much of a piece of junk that is?
It is not good.
Like the screen is 500 nits. Okay. It's not crap. It's bright. Like compared to the average washed out 300 nit screen on even $1,000 discounted to $600 Windows PC right now. Now, some of them have OLEDs at that price, but that's very rare. You have to have a serious discount. Like last year, 2 years ago model with an Intel chip that's like 5 years old or something. Anyway, look, I don't want to gush too much. I just want to say, like, I want competition. I am not an Apple fangirl. I'm a Mac fan because I like the hardware and the OS, and I like that it's Unix at the core. But I'm really excited that you can buy this quality of laptop for this price, even with its compromise, like the ports in particular. One USB 3, one USB 2. The USB 2 part, well, but I understand. Again, it's an iPhone, right? So
exactly.
So they have a single USB port. It's kind of a miracle that there's a second USB port. They probably put a little hub in there, and that's fine. Like maybe some sensor that's in an iPhone is not being used here, and they're able to use that USB port for something else, and they decide to use it for the second port. That's what I can think of, because a chip has a finite number of USB interfaces on it, right?
Right.
And there's obviously only one 3.0 interface. And of course, there's no Thunderbolt. But, when the rumors were floating around that this MacBook Neo was coming back like 6 months ago, I immediately told people that if it's running an A chip of some kind, it will not have Thunderbolt. Because there's no iPhone that has Thunderbolt.
Right.
So it will have, USB 3. And that, honestly, I haven't had, I got transferred from an SSD earlier today, and I'm not noticing a difference. Because my SSD is USB 3 and it's not a big deal. Unless you have like a Thunderbolt SSD or something, then you'll notice, but I think it's fine. Anyway, let's talk about another thing I have that's fun. And I can only really show you because I can't talk about it. It's kind of sad. But this thing is awesome. It's amazing. And it is the Oppo Find X9 Ultra. This is the mother of all camera phones. Now, some of you are going to say, Miriam, wait a second. Xiaomi 17 Ultra, Vivo X300 Ultra. Yes, all of those are phenomenal camera phones as well, but I don't have them. So my point of reference is this guy, and it's really great. I can't tell you the specs. I can only show the design. It's a little more, it's a little more squared off, as you can see, around the edges here, than like a Find X9 Pro would be, which is more like an iPhone, a little bit rounder on the corners. But it's gorgeous display. As you can see, beautiful build and design and metal. And look at that orange camera button.
Oh,
and
I like that.
Orange accent around the camera. You see that? Yeah, this thing is very hot. And look at this. The camera lenses are insane on this.
That's
thing.
a big camera hump. Like not like a protruding. It's just a huge
look at the
camera
lenses.
island.
It's insane. I don't know what's under there, but
wow.
So stay tuned because I will be able to tell you more soon. It's a treat. That's all I can say. And it's beautiful and it feels amazing in hand because this part there, the part that's textured between the metal parts is kind of fake leather. It has the same texture as a camera,
Oh.
And the rest is all metal, like this bar here and all that, And of course the frame is metal, right? Your ports. I mean, it's your standard smartphone in every other way, right? Like it's a flagship of all flagships, but then the cameras are like cranked up to 11. It's basically what you're looking at. And Xiaomi does the same and Vivo does the same too, right? So, yeah, that thing.
It looks really nice. I'm looking at the renders here on GSM Arena of the X9 Ultra, and those orange accents are nice. The arrangement of these cameras is interesting, and looks like there's also some photography kits that will be available for it.
Yeah. And so just so you know, like if you want to see this a little closer up, go to my Instagram. I have a beautiful photo of it. It's a static photo, but still it's really nice. If you want, there's a lot of creators. A lot of us have the phone. A lot of us were able to show it. Some people have done some beautiful reels out there. So if you want like a really nice unboxings out there, we're allowed to unbox it. So check it out. The interesting thing is, and you know, there's rumors that this phone's coming out on April 21st alongside its kind of baby sibling, the X9s. So here's the thing, TikTok cycle, right? Oppo does this where in the fall they come out with Dimensity-powered phones, like the X9 Pro came out and then the X9 regular. And definitely the Pro had also like a camera attachment, a telephoto, teleconverter thing. And I got that. I reviewed it. If you go to geekspin.co, you'll see my review there. Mm-hmm. And the teleconverter is really cool. A bit cumbersome to use, but cool. That phone until now was my favorite camera phone that I'd ever used. The Pro version of, you know, the lesser version of this phone that I just showed you. It's hard to say that when you're like, consider how good the Pro is already. Like, I don't know. Oppo is really killing it. Between that and the Find N6, which is their folding phone that I have, which is incredible, which I've covered a few times on the podcast. Anyway, point I'm making is they make this TikTok cycle where in the fall they come out with the Dimensity-powered flagships, the Pro and the regular. And then in the spring, they come out with the S and the Ultra. And the Ultra is generally Qualcomm-powered and crazy, like really crazy. And generally only China only, but this time is coming globally, and Oppo has revealed that the Ultra that I showed you is coming globally. Now, the 9S, we didn't know because the S phones have never come globally. They've always been reserved to China. And that is also coming globally, apparently. That's another rumor, and alongside with the April 21 date. So stay tuned. I'll have more on those. I'm not going to get a 9S to review, but the 9S is basically the 9 from the fall with some updates. I think slightly better cameras. But we don't know what the processor is. I'm betting on Dimensity 9500 Plus. That's what I'm betting on. Because last year, that's what the S had. The S had the Plus version of the 9400, I believe. Anyway, we'll see. So, OnePlus, what are your thoughts about all these rumors that are floating around? This is kind of crazy, right?
It really is. I mean, the first kind of like, interesting, okay, that I kind of got was when the OnePlus 15 came out without the Hasselblad partnership.
Yeah, that was weird,
on the
right?
camera.
Right. It came out of nowhere.
And it was like, why? It was a good partnership. Why why was it dropped? And so to hear then like, okay, maybe they, OnePlus may not be, as present in Western markets. It was kind of like, I mean, it's interesting that it has not been confirmed, and they're, at least in the beginning, they were denying it. I don't know about now. Has OnePlus said anything about anything?
No, still, I mean, they came out and said that they're kind of like when the initial rumors starting floating around when Android headlines first wrote about that, and when they did, it was a bit of a kerfuffle because the story they published seemed very AI written, like like the it kind of raised everybody's like, was this AI generated?
Like with the long hyphens?
That's a separate controversy. So some people felt that it might have been BS because it was an AI, felt like an AI article. Mm-hmm. But others have said that, they believe it. And I think there's more and more little cues that have been thrown out. But OnePlus, after this initial announcement, came out and said, no, we're sticking around, but they never denied it either. They never said, we're leaving North America, we're scaling down Europe and scaling down India, which is what the rumor is. Like, scaling down Europe in terms of numbers, scaling down, or maybe even leaving Europe. India, there's the rumors is that they would focus on no more the mid-range phones there than the flagships, and then they would drop out completely of North America. That's kind of what we expect happening. But here's the thing. Last week, we talked about 2 new phones, including the Nord 6, which is out in India or coming soon in India. And that's a mid-ranger, so that checks. And now in China, of course, we know that OnePlus, there's a whole rumor, never said that OnePlus would disappear completely. In China, they would continue to exist.
Right, exactly.
And so they're making kind of affordable flagships right now, with the A series. That's always been kind of like the equivalent to our R or our T series here, So the Ace Ultra now, A6 Ultra, is being teased. And that thing looks kind of insane. I mean, look at it. I'll put the links in the show notes, folks. Like, the design on this, it kind of looks like a OnePlus 15R, but it has this weird, like, graphic in the back, this purple luminescent thing.
They're leaning into the Ace branding on this design here.
Yeah, and it almost feels like a gaming phone almost.
I'm looking at the renders, and the Ace branding kind of feels like an afterthought.
Yeah.
Compared to where you see how the OnePlus logo's right smack in the middle, and then they just kind of, we'll just throw it on there just to make it, pop. I mean, it's an interesting looking phone. I mean, like with the, the all matte look and the purple that pops through, it looks nice from far. Like, it does look striking. It does stand out. That's for sure.
Yeah, it does. I agree.
Yeah.
So, by the way, for those of you who can't keep track of these Chinese phones, like Chinese market phones, I'm going to help you out. So, the A6 in China, that's been out for a while, is extremely similar to the OnePlus 15R, right? So that should give you a point of reference. Definitely the same chassis, and then some minor differences in terms of cameras and stuff. It's similar size display, similar size resolution, similar processor. One is a 8 Gen 5, the 15R. The other one's a 8 Elite non Gen 5. And cameras are essentially the same. Batteries are slightly different in capacity, charging speed slightly different. As you know, the OnePlus 15R has a 7,400 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty insane, and the A6 has a 7,800. So that's what I meant when I said, like, the A series is kind of like the R or T version of the OnePlus phones we were getting in the past, because the 6 is almost directly translating into the 15R that we got. So the Ace Ultra is kind of an improved version of that, I guess. Now, the rumors from the specs here is probably going to have Dimensity 9500, which makes sense. It's cheaper than a Qualcomm top chip, but it's just as powerful, roughly. And then, there's also an Ace 6T, believe it or not, to complicate things. That's a little cheaper than the A6. So China has a whole kind of like world of OnePlus phones that we never get to see. They also have a kind of a gaming focused brand there. I can't remember what it's called, but like, so OnePlus is not going away. It's just, it might be going away for us. It might be going away for Europe a little bit. And at least in Europe, you're still getting Oppo. And then if you're in India, you're probably going to be stuck with mid-rangers, and you'll get your flagships from Oppo, right? But it's all bad news, in my opinion, because the OnePlus brand, I feel, is better known in the West. And India is probably a wash, right? Oppo, OnePlus. But in Europe, I mean, OnePlus, Oppo, probably, I don't know, it's hard to tell. In North America, it's a no-brainer. Nobody knows Oppo, and everybody knows OnePlus. So why throw that out? Also, it's the only officially attainable, supported by the proper bands and everything, Chinese manufactured phone we can get in the US, other than Moto, Lenovo, right? It's sad, like, because you could always go like, okay, you can buy an iPhone, you can buy a Samsung Galaxy, you can buy a Google Pixel. Those are all pretty tried and true. And then you can buy a Razr if you really want a cool flip phone. That's Moto, Lenovo. But then if you want to kind of like undercut everyone in terms of performance, battery life, and, price, value, you buy OnePlus. And you have a 13, which I'm so glad you kept that and didn't go to the 15 because it is better, in my opinion, than the 15.
I love it.
The cameras are way better. And you don't get the latest chip. So what? And I have to say, the big battery, the 7,300 mAh is crazy. But you have a pretty big battery in yours too. It's 6,000 something. I wouldn't worry about that. I think if you have a OnePlus 13, hang on to it with dear life right now, and hang on to it. But at the same time, like this added a layer of competition that was desperately needed to our market, and we don't get that anymore now if they disappear. But again, we don't know. Like, there is no official word, and I have a feeling that if they fizzle away from our market, it's going to be a fizzle. Like, they're not going to make an official announcement. It's just going to kind of like, we're not launching this phone in the US.
Yeah, I mean, we could, since we're speculating, could we speculate that, outside of the economic conditions, we're
going to talk about that actually.
But just to touch on it real quick, outside of the economic conditions where people are kind of more, people are kind of more conscious of how they're spending as the price of other necessities are going up. So, and as a brand as obscure as OnePlus currently is in the US, only really nerds and us phone geeks know what OnePlus is in the United States. The regular person that goes to a T-Mobile store may see a OnePlus in the corner on a display, and they'll be like, they don't know what it is. They'll kind of like either go straight to the Samsung table or straight to the Apple table, and they'll get
maybe the Google table if they're really adventurous,
or the Google table or the Moto Razr table. So what I'm trying to say is, I feel like it's becoming more difficult for a brand like OnePlus to keep competing in this little niche that it's in, when just smartphones as a commodity, as a product in general, are already so saturated. People that have 5-year-old, 4-year-old phones, they're finding that that's all they're kind of still using. Maybe not 4 or 5, maybe like 3, 4, even 3, 4 years old. If it's not broken, they're probably going to try to keep using it as long as they can. So, that's kind of where we're at. And if a company like OnePlus, who hasn't officially said anything, we're speculating we're speculating, maybe it doesn't make sense for them, for their bottom line, to continue to operate, at least for the next few years, until maybe market conditions improve and they find, okay, maybe we can come back with a different strategy. Maybe we can come back with it again. Speculating, so that's kind of my thoughts on that right now.
I think that's valid. I am more concerned that if they leave, they'll never come back.
That's a possibility as well.
Even if the economy improves, even if we get rid of our current regime somehow, and I hope we do, it's going to take a while to recover from that. There's so much damage done to the economy, to just everything, to we've destroyed the trust that other countries have in our country, the US, and in that and such. Why would you, as a Chinese company, come back if you left? Right? Like, the market, you already had a small market share to start with. Like, if you were Samsung and you were leaving, that'd be a whole different story.
Yeah.
Right? But as OnePlus, so my concern is not so much the North American market. We're kind of screwed, in my opinion.
Fair.
I'm just saying, like, the market share is already really small. I don't want them to leave because I think the competition is healthy. But if they leave, I understand. But I don't think they're going to come back unless, there's a massive turnaround in the economy, in our government, such that companies and other governments can trust the US again. So it's going to take a while.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Europe, I'm a bit surprised by that, because here's the thing, right? Oppo had some kind of patent lawsuit going on with Nokia, and they had to pull out of Europe for a while. But OnePlus, being a separate company, wasn't affected by that.
Right.
So they kind of had an in, Oppo, the parent company, through OnePlus. So why give away that advantage? Now, I do realize their market share is pretty small in Europe as well, right? It's probably less small than the US, though, in terms of percentages. Now, India, though, is really strange because I feel like OnePlus has done really well in India, and maybe it's kind of petering off, and they're like, maybe they're looking at their numbers and going like, oh, we're selling a ton of Nords, and we're selling a ton of we're not selling a ton of the flagships, so let's just focus on the mid-range. Because I'm addressing each rumor here, right? The rumor that we're leaving the US, leaving Europe, and going mid-range in India. And then, of course, staying in China makes perfect sense because essentially you're selling rebranded Oppo phones, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
I hate to say that. Sorry, OnePlus, but it's kind of true. The technology sharing is real, right? So, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The aesthetics, the designs is different. So why not? Okay. But it's just overall, like, to me, it's like the end of a chapter in a way, especially for the North American market, where, we've seen OnePlus go full circle, right? From like being the darling of the early adopter tech savvy and the media, and then kind of having these growing pains, and then, having like these peaks, right? Like, I think like OnePlus 7 Pro was a peak, right? Remember that? And then, I want to say OnePlus 13 was a peak,
Yeah, I think so.
And there were some good ones somewhere in there as well, like OnePlus 3, And so I think, but overall, like, it's true that it's been dwindling, their market share. And they've also had some misses, like OnePlus 10T wasn't that great, I think the OnePlus 15 is great in some ways, but also weak in others, like camera. They've really had to step down because of the missing Hasselblad thing. And so, I don't know. It's like, for a while there, when the OnePlus Open came out and then the OnePlus 13 came out, I was like, they're so back. This is it. We're there. And then it's just like crash. It feels like with these rumors. And I'm like, no, please don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, aside from just economic market conditions, just the supply chain, just tariffs, just everything is just kind of against its favor for, staying, like reasons against. There's more reasons to pull out than more reasons to stay. And I think that pretty much sums it up. Yeah.
Speaking of, market conditions, Samsung raised the prices on a whole bunch of their phones. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's because of RAM. Primarily. Because here's the thing. Apple can lock in supply chain way in advance of other manufacturers. They're the best at that stuff. And they probably locked in RAM prices for at least 2 or 3 more years. Which is why you can get a MacBook Neo for $699 and $599 with 8 gigs of RAM. But, Z Fold, there's small increases in price, like $80 for the Fold 7. It's like the Fold 7 is so expensive, $80 is not going to kill you, right? But there are some in there that are a little bit more problematic, I feel like. Some of the tablets, $50 more, The A11 even has gone up by $50. Like, that's a lot of money for an A series phone. $249 to $299. Oof. So anyway, I'll again put a link in the show notes so you can see the damage. But here's the thing: before you panic, and I know you're not panicking because you guys are smart, but like, right after this was announced, this price, because they actually sent us PR about it, like, right after that, what people went online, people being the media went online to see what the real prices were out there on Amazon and Best Buy and stuff, and the prices are way lower than that, like. The discounts are still there. You know what I'm saying? Like the typical Samsung, and never mind the carriers with their trade-in deals and all that stuff, right? Like, so I wouldn't worry too much yet, especially if you're the kind of buyer who is on a plan and buys a phone every 2 or 3 years because you're on a plan with your family and it makes more sense to walk into the Verizon store and buy a Z Fold than it does to buy, an unlocked OnePlus Open, I get it. But my point is, don't worry too much, but it does show you the trend of where we're going with MSRP, right? And that's a bit worrisome.
Yeah.
So
And a company like Samsung with MSRPs, like you said, they typically will discount the prices anyway.
yeah,
So it just kind of gives them more space to push up a little bit against the discounts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it makes sense. And given everything with the pricing and the tariffs and RAM and it makes sense. I see it. I see why. Yeah.
So, back at CES and at MWC, we got to see the Moto Razr Fold, which is their book style folding phone. And well, we got to see it at CES, and we got a few specs given to us at MWC and got a little more in-depth hands-on time with it. Great. It seems to be a good, solid competitor to the Z Fold 7. And of course, we have zero idea on pricing yet. But if they can undercut the Z Fold 7, because supposedly the chip is not the highest tier Snapdragon chip, that could be a good way for them to save money. The thing is sexy. It's thin. It has triple 50 megapixel cameras. We know that's true. And it's got a pretty compelling package. So if they can undercut Samsung, it's going to be a great phone. The problem is, get with it, Moto. Like, why isn't this phone out yet? Like, you showed it to us at CES. That's like 4 months ago. Then you showed it again a month and a half ago at MWC. Like, why is it taking so long? It better come out before Samsung's Z Fold 8 and Z Fold 8Y, right?
Yeah. I mean, given the timing, like you said, if they showed it back in January and we're in April now, they might still be tweaking it. No,
of course.
Is this their first open style fold?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
But look, I agree with you. I'd rather them do it right than mess it up.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Exactly.
But you have to worry about the competition, right? Because look at, for example, what happened with the Pixel 10 Pro Fold. It's essentially a 9 Pro Fold with an updated chip and MagSafe, right?
Okay. Yeah.
But in terms of weight and thickness, it is absolutely no longer competitive. And you're still spending almost the same amount of money as you're spending on a Z Fold 7. But Moto is competitive. So right now, with what they've shown us. So what I'm saying is, this is why you can't wait too long. So this brings us to the rumor. The rumor is that European market might have this phone launch on May 6th. So we might have relief from this little pain that we have right now of like, can you pop the baby? Can you can you please give us this phone? So look, stay tuned. We'll find out, right? I'll link to a story here in GSM Arena. There is, basically they're accepting pre-orders for May 3rd. So May 6th, on sale date. There's some pricing leaks here. £1,799, 2,000 euros. That's a lot of money. If it comes to the US, it has to be cheaper than that because, Z Fold 7 and then Z Fold 8.
Exactly.
So because we know it has a lesser, there you go. So it's powered by 8 Gen 5 apparently, not an 8 Elite Gen 5, which personally I don't care. I'm fine with that. 6,000 milliamp hour battery though, that's pretty good. That's as good as the Oppo Find N6 that I have in my pocket that I really love. And then, triple 50 megapixel camera, I believe, is one of the things that they showed at MWC. So look, stay tuned for that. But of course, if there is a book style folding phone, there's got to be some new Razrs. Last year, they came out around this time in April. So I think it's only a matter of time till we get new Razrs at this point. But we've got some leaks of renders. And it looks like nothing's changed. I mean, I'm sure they'll update the innards a bit, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of design, and honestly, I'm not being critical here. Like the current Razr and Razr Ultra are super well oiled, super well tuned hardware wise. Like they don't need to improve. They could be thinner. Yeah. They could have bigger batteries. Yeah. Silicon carbon,
Sure.
But other than that, like in new chips, sure, the cameras can be improved, but that's really tricky to do on a flip phone, a folding flip phone. There's not a lot of real estate to get the big cameras in there.
Exactly.
So I'm happy with the fact that the leaks are pointing out, the spec leaks of the Razr 70 Ultra, which would be the equivalent to our Razr Ultra 2026 if we get that here. When we get that here, because I presume it's going to happen. So we've got new colors. Apparently there's a bump in battery size, but the chip might be staying the same, which is interesting. 8 Elite. So we'll see. And then of course there's new colors for the 70, the cheaper model, the 699 model. I believe that's what it was. For us, it will be called the Razr 2026. Whether there will be a Razr Plus, because that was in between last year for our market only. We got 3 Razrs to choose from in North America, but the rest of them only got 2. So I'm not sure what we're going to get. But here's the thing. All these rumors, all these leaks tells me that at some point soon, I'm going to get a phone call from Moto or an email saying, hey, come and join us for our launch or something. So I would say keep your ears, clean and your eyes open, because we're going to get some Moto news, I feel like, soon. And that's exciting because, look, I'm sorry, when it comes to flip phone, Samsung doesn't hold a candle to Moto, in my opinion. Like, if you want a flip phone, it's Moto or bust at this point. The Z Flip 7 is fine. It's fine, but it's not great. The Razr Ultra last year, holy crap balls. They cranked it up to 11 with that phone. They just nailed it. They were like, we're going all out. No holding back. Just give you the best freaking flip phone we can make. And I love it when companies just go like, yeah. It's like that Oppo that I showed you. I got to show you again. It's just too good. Come on. Like, look at this thing. Oh, yeah. It's pornographic. Yeah, that thing.
I'm going to say good for Moto for coming back and, taking back a segment that it dominated however many decades ago.
I love their comeback.
Yeah.
It's so good and it's so healthy because also they're listening to feedback from their customers. They listen to our feedback as media. Remember how standoffish Moto used to be back in the day? Kind of on top, like they were like, yeah, we're Moto, we know what to do. And then they kind of, took a punch or two and then they're like, I love that they didn't stay on that high horse and they were like, okay, let's do this right. And they sure did. Because remember the original Razr folding phone? It was bad. Like it broke. Remember, like there's so many issues. It was first gen. Look, the original Fold, it wasn't called the Z Fold then, the Galaxy, was a mess too. Like, come on. But we're 7 years in now. And I'd like to say that for the last 3 generations, since 2023, Moto Razr flip phones, folding flip phones are the thing. Like they are it. Prove me wrong, Moto. Please don't mess this up.
Exactly.
All right, we got a couple more things here from Huawei. So Huawei, of course, we don't get those phones. And of course, they have their own Kirin in-house chips that are, limited to 7 nanometer or whatever technology because they can't make 5, whatever it is. Yeah,
they're still dealing with that. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Oof.
Well,
Big oof. Yeah.
I think they're working really hard to fix that somehow by making their own lithography machines for the chips. We'll see. But anyway, what I'm excited about is that Huawei still innovates and they still do cool stuff and they still make incredible camera phones and they still make like crazy folding phones. And so April 20th, apparently there's some kind of launch or event or announcement coming. It's probably going to be only in China at this point, but some of these phones might come to the West because about half of the phones they make are sold in Europe still and in Middle East and in other markets. And the news, the rumors, whatever, is that there is a Pura X Max. And the Pura X with this weird, speaking of flip phones, it was kind of like a Razr, but slightly bigger. And instead of flipping open like this, like a flip phone, the idea was to open it like a fold phone, but slightly bigger than a flip, but slightly smaller than a fold. And so it still didn't have a screen in the front that was big and powerful enough to run full apps, Or supposedly you probably could, but they didn't want that. They wanted it to be just like notifications and, simple widgets or whatever. And then you open it. And the thing that made it unique was that when you open it, it had like a 16:9 aspect ratio. So you could watch videos on this on a much bigger screen.
Yeah.
I think it ended up being like something like 8 inches open, kind of like an iPad mini, right? But it then would shut into a kind of like basically what we expect the iPhone Fold to be, and the Z Fold 8 wide. But the original Pure X was kind of in between that in size and a Razr flip phone in size. Now there's a Pure X Ultra coming, and that one is straight up going to be like the iPhone Fold and the Z Fold 8 wide, meaning it's going to be a proper full-on book-style folding phone with a front screen that you can run apps on that takes up the whole front, not just widgets. And then when you open it, it's going to have that wide aspect ratio. So I think that's kind of fascinating because it means that it's not just Apple and Samsung going for experimenting with another fold form factor, but also, we heard Honor's doing something similar. And now we've got Huawei coming up with something. And then on top of that, because, it's Huawei and they make some of the best camera phones in the world. They have, there's rumors of this Pure X90 camera phone, probably Pro or Pro Max, whatever it's going to be called. There's, it's a series of phones, kind of like all the flagships in China come in different versions, right? Like there's a regular and a Pro and an Ultra or a Pro Max or whatever. And well, last year's was kind of a doozy because if you see the renders of this Pure X90 Pro Max here, this thing looks like it has the same crazy telephoto as last year, that gigantic round thing with the 200 megapixel sensor. But there's 2 lenses on top of that sensor and they can flip between the two, kind of like rotate them in. So, you put one in and you get a certain amount of zoom. You put another one in, you get another amount of zoom. It's cray. I love it.
It's so cool.
It's so Huawei, right? It's like, oh yeah, of course we do that. It's like, we have the know-how. Why wouldn't we do that? Yeah. So stay tuned. We'll figure it out. I'm sure that on the 20th, there'll be lots to look at. And I'll cover it. Nothing Warp. So this is weird. Nothing sent me PR about this. And they're like, hey, we made kind of like a AirDrop competitor. And I'm like, well, why? Because on Pixel and on Galaxy now, you can do AirDrop. So why? And then there's, of course, Quick Share if you want to do Google, Android, right? So why would you even bother with... And then it got even more bizarre because it's a plugin or an extension for Chrome. So I suppose it works on... The nice thing is it's cross-platform. It works on Chromebooks and Windows and Mac OS. But... like, why? Like, and then you have to install an app on your Android phone as well. And you get an extra, that app appears in your share sheet. So you can share to this plugin. And the idea here is that because you're logged into your Google account on Chrome, you're logged into your Google account on Android. That's how they are able to pass the data around. But the strange thing is it doesn't actually send the file to your laptop or Chromebook or Mac because, well, it's Chrome the web browser, and Chrome the web browser, like, how does that work, right? Like, so apparently it just sends it to your Google Drive, and I don't understand it. You've read the thing? Does that make sense to you?
I'm skimming it now. Is this directly to Drive, or is this going, or can you download this locally? It says files are being transferred through your own Google Drive, so Warp does not store or access your data. Seamlessly send links, files, copy text, and images between your devices in both directions. Your files are being transferred through your own Google Drive.
I don't understand. Why does it need to transfer files to Google Drive if all it needs to do is like get it from your phone directly, peer to peer? The plugin could just be a thing where you click on it and it pops up a web page that has a download link and you download the file.
I'm not sure.
I need to try it out, is what I'm saying, to make sense of it.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why it exists in the first place when we have a perfectly good Quick Share, whatever it's called, the sharing for Android. And we have a perfectly good implementation of, that is, Google created this implementation of AirDrop that is now on Pixel and on Galaxy and is coming. Apparently, Oppo has already announced that they're going to support it too. So, and that requires zero software. I've literally exchanged files from my Pixel to complete random strangers that have iPhones.
I'm wondering if they did this because it's the quickest and most direct way that they can say they have some kind of like their own transfer system. Because yes, Google has it where it works with AirDrop, and Samsung as well with the latest phones. But for nothing to develop this, I don't know what technically is needed to implement this into your firmware.
Right.
I don't know how complex that is. Maybe this was less complex so that they could be like, hey, we can do this now. But it doesn't sound like it's even has anything to do with working with AirDrop. It's just directly to, but like you said, it works with Chrome. So that's like their shortcut.
See, the other thing is there's this app that's free that exists on every OS and exists on every phone called Local Send.
Local Send is great.
I mean, all you need is Local Send. Like, I'm sorry, like this is much better solution than what they're describing, because you don't need a web browser running at all for that. It's a dedicated Mac OS app, a dedicated Windows 11 app, and a dedicated Linux app. Now, it doesn't run in Chromebooks, so there's that. But it does run on iOS and it does run on Android as well. So you're covered.
Think about how you said that though. Local Send made a Mac app, a Windows app, an Android app, and an iPhone app.
And it's free.
But all nothing had to do was make a Chrome extension.
True.
They only had to do one thing.
But you need a Chrome browser running.
Or Chromium. So Chromium. So you could use Edge.
So you can use Edge, and you can use like Chrome Beta, and there's a bunch of other Chromium variants. Look, I'm not saying they shouldn't have done this. I'm not panning it because I haven't tried it. I'm just trying to understand the logic, and it's a little puzzling. When I got the PR, it didn't seem to make much sense, and reading this article doesn't make more sense either.
It just kind of seems like a Me Too, we can do it too kind of feature.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, it takes a very specific user to want to do transfers between computer and because, okay, listen to this. Easy transfer between Android and your computer, depending on your operating system, because it's a nightmare to transfer anything using a cable on Mac OS to Android. But with Windows, it's much easier. It's an MTP. Maybe, to be fair, MTP is not efficient. It's very slow and it's kind of clunky. So maybe that just kind of adds another layer of, we're baking this in so that you can do easy transfers. I
get it. But as I said, Local Send solved this problem a long time ago.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And it's really good. Like, it's so easy to use. So, yeah.
I'm spoiled with OnePlus's O Plus Connect.
Oh, yeah.
It works. Good. It works so well.
It's cool. Look, Insta360 did a touchscreen viewfinder for your phone that clicks on to the MagSafe part of your iPhone or MagSafe case for Android. It's this really smart thing. It's a small display, 3.5 inches. It is just, basic 480 by 800 pixels, 60 hertz. It's only 7.3 millimeters thick. And there's two versions, an $80 version and a $90 version. The $90 version has an adjustable LED ring light around it. Connects to USB-C to draw power from your phone and to do the display connection. And you're going to say, why would you put a display on the back of your phone? Well, if you don't have a flip phone or a folding phone, you would do that so that you can use your rear cameras for selfies. And boom, this is a brilliant idea. And I have to say, Insta360 is killing it with their products. And this is another one of how sometimes products are made and you're like, of course you do that. It seems like why didn't we think of that before? It's a complete no-brainer, right? Yeah, that's this product. And that's why I'm highlighting it. I don't have it. They're not a sponsor of mine. I have no, skin in the game here other than I think it's a brilliant idea. And, a lot of us have MagSafe cases for Android. And if you don't, it comes with a magnetic ring. You can stick to the back of your phone or the case. And so you're set. And I think it's super cool. I love it.
This is a really great idea. It's available. I'm looking at the Amazon listing. It says April 22nd. So soon.
It's coming.
$90 for the light version, or the one that has the ring light. And then without the light, it's $10 less. This is a great idea. I mean, direct USB connection. It even has touchscreen controls, so you don't have to flip the phone to make the adjustments and then it just looks like a totally,
It's great.
a total solution in one product for, taking selfies, for making content, or whatever you want to do on the phone. Or it's the Android and iPhone.
I want it.
I like it.
I want it. I'm going to wait for it to go on sale during Black Friday or something. I can see a use for that when I do when I try to shoot videos, but I'm by myself, and I don't have anybody help me frame my shot.
It even lists what I'm looking at the Amazon listing towards the bottom. It says compatible devices. It's listing a lot of brands. It's listing Apple, Samsung, Huawei, OnePlus, Vivo, Honor, ZTE, Google, Xiaomi, IQ, and Oppo. So this is going to be sold in many markets. It looks like.
It's pretty great. I love it. I'm happy. It makes me happy. I love products that are smart. Okay, the last thing we have is a bit weird. Amazon acquired satellite internet company Globalstar. And internet in quotes here, because here's what you understand. Globalstar is one of the OGs. No, look. Globalstar is one of the OGs, meaning they've been doing this for a really long time, meaning that they're not like Starlink, which is a brand new network in low Earth orbit that can give us those incredible speeds that Starlink gives. Like you can easily get 100 megabits up and down with Starlink anywhere in the world. And it's incredible. Now airplanes have it and it's changing. I travel so much, it's changing the game for me. United just is my airline and they just adopted it.
Nice.
It's great. When I get on, and the difference between that and the old internet that we were getting on plane is Globalstar was not the only supplier of internet for planes, but they're one of the OGs, and they don't use low Earth orbit satellites like Starlink does. They use further away satellites, so the speeds are slower. Remember how Wi-Fi is so bad on airplanes? That's because those satellites are really not. They're decades old. I mean, they're not designed. That's why it's like pseudo internet. It's not real internet because you don't have the responsiveness of what you expect the internet to be. All this to say that it's interesting that Amazon bought one of these. Not like the acquisition kind of makes sense. You get patents and know-how, and Amazon probably doesn't know how to like launch satellites and maintain satellites and all that stuff that comes with the business.
Right.
But Amazon has also been trying to create their own competing network to Starlink from scratch, low Earth orbit, same idea. And they've been launching satellites and supposedly they're going online soon. So they already have something that can compete with Starlink that's in the works and designed to grow. So why would they, other than the knowledge and the know-how and the brand recognition and the partnerships that Globalstar has with businesses like airlines. Other than that, why would they acquire Globalstar? Because in terms of like raw performance, they're not bringing anything to the table. It's, as I said, it's kind of the internet. These networks were designed for emergency communication, like Globalstar and Intelsat and all these. There's other networks. They were created for like, if you're on a ship, a merchant ship out there, and you suddenly are going to sink, you can push a button and it sends a satellite to the signal and saying, this is our GPS coordinates, come and rescue us right now, please. Or the sat phones that you see with a big antenna sticking out, like you're in the middle of nowhere. Like before Starlink was a thing, that's how you made an emergency phone call, and it cost you like $20 a minute. You know what I'm saying? That was Globalstar and Intelsat and these others. I don't understand. Like, I don't have a problem with the acquisition. I just don't understand what they're gaining from it when they're already creating something that competes with Starlink, which is clearly better technically. So yeah, it's a bit weird.
I'm just skimming through the article here.
What is it saying?
It's saying Globalstar satellites will expand the Amazon Leo
low Earth orbit
satellite company, hence the different spelling, constellation, and will let Amazon help mobile operators extend voice, text, and data services to customers beyond the reach of terrestrial networks. Of course, Amazon will offer carriers this, quote, help for a fee. So it sounds like they want to be able to expand their satellite network so that they can sell the service.
That makes sense because Globalstar right now is the default, when you do satellite, emergency satellite on an iPhone, that's Globalstar. So there's that partnership with the carriers as well, right? Like, how T-Mobile is in bed with Starlink. So I think that's maybe that makes sense. But like from a like raw, like I'm like, it's weird. Like it's like
From-
it's like imagine you're like Tesla and you decide to buy a company that makes gas engines. Is this what it feels like to me? You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm like much slower, much more polluting, much less efficient. It's old tech. Why would you need it? Why would you want it? Like, you know what I'm saying?
It could be patents. It could be assets. It could be, I don't know. I mean, if they can control more of this old thing, then they can kind of manipulate it to make their new thing make more money, I guess.
Yeah.
Or,
no, absolutely.
you know, and Amazon's a huge company. So, I mean,
They
I
have all the money.
zero doubts that they're going to generate more revenue with this acquisition. So, I mean, it makes very on brand for Amazon to do something like this.
No, I get that. Anyway, it's interesting. And, you know, there you go. That's our show. I mean, there's a lot of news here.
Yeah.
I think what's exciting me the most right now is that despite all the difficult times that, you know, we're going through in terms of like, you know, purely like things like RAM prices, inflation, there's still some really cool products coming out. Now, I know they're not cheap, but the MacBook Neo is affordable and attainable. That Oppo phone, I don't know the price. So even if I did, I couldn't tell you, but I don't know the price. And so like, it's going to be expensive. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
Like that thing is a beast.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that we still are getting some real cool tech, right? The tech is there. It's cool. And, you know, it's not just coming from China because Apple is doing some cool stuff too. So I'm excited about that. And Samsung's, you know, as much as I'm not the biggest Samsung fan, I have to say their products are pretty great and solid and lots of people love them and respect, you know?
Yeah.
All right, Enrique, tell the world what you're up to these days and, you know, with the podcast and with your social media and all that other good stuff you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm the host of Cybernut HQ, not to be confused with Cybernut, the cybersecurity academy online. It's actually funny. There's another thing called Cybernut.
That's hilarious.
It's just hilarious. Their logo is a little squirrel. It's a squirrel with a nut next to it. But anyhow, yeah, Cybernut HQ. You can find me at cybernuthq.com. You can find me at Cybernut HQ on all social media platforms. And basically it's just me talking about tech and other things that I like. You know, I kind of delve into retro tech and, you know, kind of topics of like tech back when I was younger, and kind of delve into video games, still kind of developing what it is. But if you want alerts on when I go live, as I go live on Twitch semi-regularly, you can head to cybernuthq.com and find the Discord link on the homepage. And just in general tech and stuff I like content.
Yeah, you should definitely follow Enrique and check out the Cybernaut podcast because it's a lot of fun. I love your angle and your approach to it. It's, you know, it's a lot of it is tongue in cheek and I love it. It's really fun. Check it out, folks. And you know where to find me on the internet. I'm at Tankerl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character, drop the vowels. That's my handle pretty much everywhere except for TikTok, where you add my year of birth, 6'9". So there you go. That's the handles. Now I'm primarily active on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Threads. But I'm on all the platforms, so I'll check it. If you want to chat with me and Enrique about this podcast, find us on social. And, you know, the podcast is at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major platforms. So subscribe, tell your friends if you're first time here, you know, check it out. We're on Spotify, YouTube Music, and Apple Podcasts, and pretty much everywhere. So, yeah. There's your YouTube channel as well. You can get some videos monthly or so. I post some unboxings, hands-ons, reviews, that kind of stuff. Mobile Tech Podcast is the channel on YouTube. So you know how YouTube works. Like, subscribe, click the bell, comment, tell your friends, all that good stuff. youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. And then finally, you can support me with Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. I showed the MacBook Neo and I showed the Oppo Find X9 Ultra earlier. You know, if you're wondering while I showed those and we talked about stuff, visual stuff, that's because there's a video version of this podcast on my Patreon. And if you're a Patreon, for $5 a month every week, you get a show a day in advance on video. And so you get, you know, sometimes I leave extra content and bloopers and fun stuff, but mostly you get to see us play with devices and show them off. And you see our faces and our reactions and all that. So if you want to support me, go to Patreon, patreon.com/TNKGRL. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. So as you know, I'm constantly reviewing multiple phones, and while that's fun, it also means I'm constantly spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. That's where Mint Mobile comes in, and that's who I'm partnering with for today's podcast. If you also want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. As tech-savvy early adopters, you've probably heard of Mint Mobile before, but let me quickly tell you how awesome their service is. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around and waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current device and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM free of charge. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, lightning fast 5G, and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link mintmobile.com/mobiletech to get premium wireless starting for $15 a month. That's mintmobile.com/mobiletech. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. And Enrique, thanks so much for being my guest. It was a lot of fun to have you on again.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Miriam. You know, I'm always down to come on the show and talk some tech, and it helps me catch up too with what's going on in tech news.
Right on. Always ready to boogie. Yeah, I like that. We'll definitely have you on again. And folks, I'll have another podcast next week, so stay tuned for that. Until then, cheers, everybody.
Ciao.